Hello and welcome to Musical Musings, a place where musicians at St. Thomas the Apostle Hollywood muse about music. Today's musician is Christine Tartan, alto turned soprano in the St. Thomas Choir. So today we are inviting Christine Tartan to talk to us. She is a soprano in the St. Thomas Choir, and we just love her to pieces. Christine, thank you for being here today.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. And Jeffrey, before we start, I just have to tell you, every time I hear the lead music to these interviews, I just absolutely crack up because when I was growing up, my father's business was right next to our house. And he would come in for lunch, sit and eat some lunch, and then lay on the living room couch and watch As the World Turns, the soap opera. And the music just reminds me so much of
That's really funny. You know, that
As
music
the
is
World Turns. Yeah.
improvisation that I happened to record in February, and I just took snippets of it.
Well, that is just so funny because it
I
sounds
was channeling a soap opera.
and that soap opera went on for years and years and years.
Oh wow, yeah, they've been slowly but surely going away. Those
Yeah,
soap
I don't think they exist anymore. I don't know, but
Oh no, the Young and the
anyway,
Restless is
it,
still.
it just always amuses me and I always laugh out loud.
Well, that's good to know. I'll have to go look at the music for that. See if I can hear it. So, Christine, thanks again for doing this. And the first thing I want to start with is what brought you to St. Thomas?
Well, I was kind of wandering in the wilderness for a while, churchless, having left a situation, and several of my musical friends had gravitated to St. Thomas. And I had come to an Easter service one year and was impressed. And so Michael sort of was urging me to give it a try, and my friend Keith had begun at that point. So I came, and it was shortly before you took over, Jeffrey. How long has that been?
Well, I started as organist in 2012, and then I took over the choir in 2014. So yeah,
I think it must have been, 2013, 2014.
great.
And then I leaned on Brent to come and join us. So it was wonderful to be with those old friends again and
And
have you for our leader.
and in your former choir, and also when you began at St. Thomas, you were an alto.
I had always sung alto because actually I didn't sing much for years because I was always playing the piano. And then it's interesting how sometimes bad things that happen in your life can lead to good things. And something happened that made me just want to go do something that I could just do and not have to prepare. And I said, I'm going to go sing with Richard, who was another friend and a wonderful musician. So I did, and it was absolutely what I thought it would be. But singing alto, I would just sing. I could always sing. I've taught in public schools and done that sort of thing. But then you needed a soprano, and I got Carell to sing soprano, and I really feel that I've had to learn to sing to sing soprano because it takes more breath and it takes, anyway, it's been a wonderful growth for me. So thank you.
Well, you're a wonderful soprano. I think you sound fantastic in the soprano section. You really.
Well, thank you. I always knew, I've worked with enough singers to know that I was a soprano, but I wasn't, I I wasn't spending time being a soprano. I mean, I wasn't working on my voice or anything. So.
Well, you have those notes. You have those upper notes.
Thank you,
You
Jeffrey.
sound wonderful on them.
Well,
You had mentioned the piano, and I know that you're a pianist, but maybe everyone out there doesn't know. Maybe
mhm.
you could talk a little bit about your musical background from maybe the beginning to all the way.
Well, I have memories, early memories of, you know, picking out notes on the piano one finger at a time as a really young child. And I'm not sure why we had a piano in the house because neither of my parents are musicians. But it was also a time when a lot of people had pianos. My grandparents had a piano in their farmhouse. They had a big family. And I think that they got it from my sister, who was 5 years older, and she wasn't particularly interested. But I took to it, and I remember I was about 4 or 5 going across the street to a high school girl and arranging for my own piano lessons. So that was how it started. My little red teaching little fingers to play. Did you ever use that? Anyway, so that was the beginning of it. And then my my dad was not musically educated, but he really loved music, and he was just such a positive, you know, influence and listener. And so I was really lucky to be nurtured. And I grew up in a very small town, and went from had a range of teachers, early teachers, and then had a really fine teacher in high school that I had to drive to Mason City to see. It was
This is in
felt
Iowa.
very important, to.
This is Iowa, right, Christine?
This is Iowa, right? Actually, I was born in Sheboygan, Wisconsin, because my father was a skilled welder, and rather than being drafted, he was shipped to Sheboygan, Wisconsin, where they were building submarines. And so he worked on submarines. And then after the war, we moved back to where he grew up, which was a small Iowa town called Osage, after the Indian tribe.
Wow. So you, when you were done with high school, did you pursue music after that?
I did. Then with the help of my piano teacher, I went to Eastman School of Music, which is part of the University of Rochester in New York, a conservatory. And actually, I started there between my junior and senior years of high school. They had a program where high schoolers could go in the summers and then matriculate after that. So I did that, and I majored in piano and a combination music education. Music education at a place like Eastman was kind of looked down upon, unfortunately, but I'm so glad that I had that background, because that meant that in addition to piano, I had some vocal training there. And then I married my college sweetheart, who was a trumpet player, and he was about to be drafted for the Vietnam War, and to avoid that, he decided that he'd rather learn how to fly, and so he was an instant ensign, that kind of thing, and we traipsed around the country to different flight training cities, and in every place I got a teaching job, even for a year or two. And this is timely because I've been thinking about it lately with all of the racial conversations going on in the country. But one of those jobs was in Pensacola, Florida, and I taught at an elementary school, K-6, that was the very first school in the area to be integrated. And I didn't think really much of it at the time, but it turned out to be really a good experience. And it was interesting to observe the staff who, to whom it was new. Most of them had been there for years. And some of them were just all in favor of it, and some of them weren't. But everybody just was very professional and went with it. And music, I think, as I look back, really was a help, in the whole process. The kids would sing. There were a lot of Southern Baptists who had grown up singing, and we just did such fun things. And so that's really a good memory from that period.
Beautiful. The unifying quality of music.
Yeah. And when you think about it, we've come a long way and we haven't. So,
Always more work to do, for sure.
Yeah, that really brought up that memory. So anyway, then finally he finished, and then we ended up in San Diego in California, and that was my first California experience in the late 60s. And then musically after that, unfortunately, he was killed in Vietnam, and I had an infant. And so I stayed for 4 years in San Diego, and then realized that I could use his GI Bill to go to graduate school. So I was able to move to LA and go to USC. And while in San Diego, I had started playing in vocal teachers in a very fine vocal teacher's studio, and really got acquainted with song literature and really loved it. And USC had one of the pioneering programs at the time in accompanying. So I got to do that, and I didn't know whether I'd stay in LA after that, but it worked out, and I like LA.
And you've devoted your life to music here in LA as well.
Pretty much, and family. And then after some years, I remarried and had two small children again. So it was, I had a teenager and babies. So, that was challenging, and the music sort of took a second role to that. But that's decisions that we make, and I always did something. I always was doing something in my own little studio and outside of it. So that's my life history, Jerry.
Awesome, I love it. So you've been in the St. Thomas Choir for 6 years,
Mm-hmm.
and we've done lots of different pieces of music. And I'm curious to know, whether it be hymns or repertoire, if there's anything that sticks out in your mind as a favorite, or if there's anything that you'd like us to do, like the Verdi Requiem or something.
I like choral music best in the context of worship. And I don't have favorites. It's mainly what's in front of me. I know what I don't like. I don't like it if something has a tessitura that hangs at an altitude for measures and measures and measures, and it's too hard. But I like variety, and we do so many different things. And I love I grew up in a Lutheran church, so I like good hymn singing. But when you say, do you have a favorite? It's pretty much what's in front of me.
Well, I'm exactly the same. I'm always most in love with the piece we're working on.
Yeah, right. I mean, you get involved with it, and then it's really fun when it comes around a second time, because you're starting at a different place. And I find that with all with anything that I play too. You know, like bringing up old repertoires. It's like, well,
It's like hanging out with an old friend.
you're right. It's like an old friend.
So before we go, this is the last question I have for you, Christine. Is there anything that you would like to say to our friends at St. Thomas while we're away from each other?
I just have to say, I really appreciate the congregation. I love the way the congregation sings. It's just so, I feel so uplifted because I can hear you where we are, you know, you can really hear it. And I love the way they listen. I feel that I've done enough performing to know that you can really feel when an audience, and I don't mean that the congregation is an audience, but you can really feel when people are listening. And I get that there. And gosh, half the congregation stays for the postlude. You know, it's just, I just think that music at St. Thomas is very special, and it's because of the way the congregation responds and interacts with it. So I think we are really blessed, and I appreciate Ken and Davis's devotion to it, and knowledge and encouragement. So yeah, very, very, very special.
Thank you for watching. Please be sure to follow us on social media for upcoming content. Until next time, God bless and take care.